Earnings coming through from Wall Street. Apple coming up. Zeb will get you more on this in just a moment, but have a look. So what this shows you, you have Apple here in the middle. If you can come closer, actually, what this shows you, these are the biggest suppliers of Apple, and we basically sorted them according to how reliant they are on the central company as far as percentage of their revenue. So if you're seeing red, those stocks are on the way down. Obviously, some of these guys are listed over in the U.S. Honhai, of course, contract manufacturer there, biggest one, 15% of their revenue actually comes from servicing Apple. You go through the list, you have a number of companies here. In fact, based on how this is sorted, the top 30, about 22, if I'm not mistaken, 21 or 22 are based here in Asia. You have about 13 in Japan, you have a lot in Taiwan, a few in South Korea as well, you have one or two here in Hong Kong and up in China. So you look at that. So a lot of these companies are fairly dependent on Apple, and when Apple misses, of course, estimates, you expect these stock prices to reflect that pressure as well. I'll leave it there. Rush back to you.
Well, it's our top story this Wednesday morning is Apple falling after our sales missing estimates in the last quarter, and that's led to questions about the company's prospects in the second half of the year. Let's get behind the numbers, find out what they mean. Here's
Big questions, Rich, on whether the second half will be strong or perhaps lackluster for Apple. Given these numbers, still a strong sales performance by any business's standards. Apple selling a 35% increase in iPhones in the quarter, 47.5 million units with a very healthy profit margin, but it fell short of what the analysts were seeking. In fact, they sought 48.8 million shipments, and this, combined with the revenue forecast that also fell short of expectations, contributed to that 8% after-hours drop in the stock. Quite a big drop in the after-hours trade as investors try to figure out whether iPhone demand is peaking and what's next for the other products, like the iPad. Now, slowing demand for the iPhone, of course, spooking investors, and the concern is that Apple will have a hard time selling more of the devices. Now, many people have traded up to that larger screen. They expect a richer experience. We do expect Apple to introduce an updated version later this year, and the same can be said for the iPad, which did see a rough quarter in terms of sales. Now, a corporate iPad said to be on the agenda, one with a larger screen that may appeal to even more users. As for the Apple Watch, we don't have exact numbers on how Apple performed in that regard, but the unit that sells the Apple Watch, it includes the Beat headphones, for example, it's a 49% sales increase, $2.6 billion, so healthy performance in that. And China, despite the slowdown, well, it continues to power ahead. The Chinese market delivering double the revenue growth in the quarter, strong performance there, and Apple seeing an advance in terms of its ability to spread its sales across the various price points of its units. It used to only be able to sell its cheapest products there. Now Apple's seeing pricing power and strong sales growth as users trade up to those more expensive iPhones, which is exactly what it wants to see. And analysts say Apple now driving the pricing power in the market. That was once the purview of Samsung and those local providers like Xiaomi. Interesting to see how this evolves going forward. Rish?
Thanks for that, Zeb.